Loud laughter shattered the stillness of the roadside diner in Billings, Montana. Three rowdy bikers slammed their hands on the table. Then one of them, eyes filled with contempt, stepped toward the woman in the wheelchair. He suddenly yanked her wheelchair's handle, sending her crashing forward onto the cold tile floor. Hot coffee splashed onto her sleeve. Her wallet hit the ground, and an old, wrinkled photo slid across the tiles, a snapshot of her standing tall among her unit, beneath the burning sun of the desert, pride shining in her eyes. No one stepped in. No one said a word. She picked herself up alone in the heavy silence of the entire room. That woman was Elena Brooks, 47 years old, a former U.S. Marine Corps sergeant. She had served 2 tours in Kandahar, a place where surviving each day was its kind of victory. A landmine had taken her left leg, but it never took her dignity or the iron strength in her soul. After returning home, Elena chose a quiet life working at the Blue Ridge Diner, where she found peace in simple routines, folding napkins, pouring coffee, and serving in silence. She didn't ask for pity. She didn't want glory. To her, honor was something enduring, something that didn't need to be spoken out loud. But in times of peace, the silence in the face of injustice could cut deeper than any battlefield wound. And that's why 30 minutes after the fall, the unexpected arrival of her former comrades changed everything, not just for Elena, but for an entire community that once looked the other way. Elena always chose the same seat, the back left corner of the Blue Ridge Diner, right under the old wall clock that was always 5 minutes slow. That's where the coffee came, filled to the brim, hot enough to sting your lips, and the vinyl chair squeaked if you leaned back too far. But Elena liked it that way. Not because it was comfortable, but because it was familiar. Predictable, simple, and most of all, safe. She always wore her Marine Corps pin on the collar of her faded denim shirt, placed with the same precision she used to apply her name tag on combat gear. Every napkin she folded with knife and fork tucked inside was done with calloused hands and the quiet accuracy of someone who once assembled rifles under fire. The manager, Dave, understood her, only gave her the midday shift. Nothing too heavy, no questions asked. Elena never requested more. She never needed to. Elena, at 47, had served as a Marine sergeant, deployed twice to Afghanistan. The last deployment nearly killed her, but took a part of her body instead, and with it, a part of her trust. She chose the wheelchair over a prosthetic because it didn't pretend. It didn't hide anything. It was honest like her. Her days moved in a rhythm she controlled. Roll, fold, place, repeat. Routine kept her steady. Stillness was her refuge. People didn't talk much to her. Some nodded politely. Others looked away, as if her missing leg was a reminder they weren't ready to face. But Elena didn't come to be seen. She came to stay balanced. In the chest pocket of her worn flannel shirt, she carried a weathered leather wallet. Inside, one photo her and her unit, taken before the blast. She was smiling brightly in it, a smile that perhaps never returned since. She didn't need to look at it every day. She didn't need to be reminded. Until today. Because today, the quiet world she fought so hard to stitch back together was about to crack wide open. The door to the Blue Ridge Diner slammed open with a screech metal, hinges protesting, followed by garish laughter that seemed determined to shatter the quiet Elena Brooks cherished every day. 3 young men, Tex, Buck, and Slider, swaggered in, their worn leather jackets plastered with random patches, heavy boots stomping on the tile floor like they intended to claim the space by sheer volume alone. They didn't need to speak to draw attention. They demanded it and got it. Other patrons briefly looked up, then quickly lowered their eyes. The waitress, Melissa, froze for a split second, then pretended to wipe down an already spotless sugar jar. Tex scanned the room. His eyes landed on the far left corner, where Elena always sat, her calloused hands folding napkins with the care of someone who had learned long ago that precision could mean survival. He sneered. "Well, would you look at that, a fallen warrior?" he jeered. "What, did you get this job through some veteran charity program?" Slider chuckled dryly, dragging a butter knife across the tabletop for effect. "I thought soldiers were supposed to be tough. Now she's pushing coffee? Who let her into the kitchen anyway? Don't food safety laws apply to wheelchairs?" Elena didn't react at first. She looked up briefly, calm eyes, sharp as a drawn blade. Then she returned to her task, placing the final set of utensils down with a grace untouched by mockery. She was used to being underestimated, but this time, the silence in the diner made it cut deeper. No one said anything. No one intervened. It was as if her mere presence, though quiet, made people uncomfortable. Buck dropped into the chair across from her, propping his boots on the table. "Looks like this soldier's got an attitude," he smirked. "Ignoring us, huh? Waiting for orders, Sergeant?" Elena rolled her chair toward the coffee machine. Her hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but from rage. Not rage at the insult she'd heard worse, but at the familiarity of the moment. Once again, she was forced to brace herself against aggression, while others chose silence. And then it happened. Slider stepped close, growling beside her ear. "Hey, I'm talking to you." Before Elena could turn, he grabbed the wheelchair's handle and yanked hard. The motion sent her lurching forward, crashing into a nearby table. Coffee spilled. A metal tray clanged to the floor, loud and jarring, slicing through the air like a blade. Elena fell fast, hard, but made no sound. Her wallet slipped from her pocket. A photo slid free, landing face up on the cold tile. In the image, a younger, firmer Elena, dusty combat gear on her back, smiling beneath the Middle Eastern sun. Faded ink on the back read, "She carried us all." Elena braced herself, pushing off the floor to rise. Somewhere across the diner, someone sighed. But no one stood. Eyes flicked her way, then darted back down. And in that moment, the crushing loneliness of someone who once dragged wounded comrades from under enemy fire, now left abandoned in her hometown. It was more bitter than war had ever been. Elena had returned to her wheelchair. Her sleeve was soaked with coffee, and the Marine Corps pin on her denim collar was now stained a deep brown. Still, she sat upright, back straight, eyes calm as if she hadn't just been thrown to the ground beneath a sea of indifferent stares. Her wallet had been picked up. The old photo was placed carefully back inside, still her, in desert fatigues, standing tall among her unit. The faded inscription remained, "She carried us all." At the front window, a boy no older than 9 kept his eyes fixed on her, wide and unblinking. "Dad," he whispered. "Was she a soldier?" The man beside him, a veteran himself, his faded baseball cap embroidered with "Desert Storm, the 2nd of Marching Division," gave a silent nod. He said nothing. He looked at his son, then at Elena. Something in his eyes shifted a connection that reached across time, across battles, both external and within. He rose and quietly stepped outside. One hand lifted his phone to his ear, the other gripped the brim of his cap. "This is Sergeant Daniels," he said softly. "This isn't an official report. It's personal. But it involves one of ours. Send a team? Trust me, you'll want to be here." 30 minutes later, gravel crunched under the tires of a military green SUV, pulling up in front of the Blue Ridge Diner. The U.S. Marine Corps insignia glinted in the late afternoon sun. No sirens, no warning, just a silent presence, steady, unmistakable. The vehicle door opened with military precision. 3 figures stepped in. An older staff sergeant, walking with a polished ebony cane and eyes that had scanned 1,000 combat zones. A female captain, her chest adorned with medals like a walking history book, and a young Marine, tall and clean-cut in a crisp uniform, pushing an empty wheelchair behind him. No one said a word. They didn't have to. The entire diner fell still. The staff sergeant walked directly to Elena's table, stood tall, and saluted her, precise, unwavering. "Sergeant Elena Brooks," he said, his voice low and steady as stone. "Sorry, we're late." Elena blinked, stunned, but her instinct kicked in. A soldier knows rank, knows honor, knows a vow never to leave a comrade behind. She returned the salute sharp, clean, and for the first time that day, her eyes glowed with something new. Not fear, but recognition. Then the young Marine stepped forward. "Ma'am, back in Kandahar, you pulled 3 of us out of a burning rap. I was one of them." Elena squinted, searching his face. Her voice was barely above a breath. "Private Allen? Corporal, now thanks to you." The men she had once saved had now returned. Not to repay her, but to remind everyone watching, we never leave our own behind. Not in combat, and not in peacetime. "Is it?" Tex, Buck, and Slider, the same men who had swaggered moments ago like they owned the place, now sat small, hunched, their eyes avoiding contact, unable to hold a gaze for more than 3 seconds. The female captain, her voice calm but resonant like a bronze bell, turned to face them. We received a report that a U.S. Marine veteran was assaulted here today, a woman trained to defend this country, a woman who once placed her life in the hands of her brothers and sisters, and today, she was dragged down in a place that should have been safe. Her gaze landed on each of them, slowly and deliberately. This isn't punishment. It's a reminder. We don't forget, we don't abandon, and we don't stay silent. Tex shifted, about to speak, maybe to justify, maybe to deflect, but a single shake of the head from the older staff sergeant silenced him. No need to talk, he said, motioning toward Elena, who still sat silently in the corner. She already did the hardest thing. She kept her dignity while everyone else chose to look away. There was no need to tell them to leave. The three rose heads low, not daring to glance back, and walked out the same door they had once burst through so arrogantly. This time, the door closed with a soft, almost apologetic click. No one in the diner clapped. But then, from a corner near the wall, an elderly man wearing a cap embroidered with Korean War veterans stood, raised his hand in a salute toward Elena. No words. Used solemn silence. Young Tommy, still standing next to his father, awkwardly raised his hand to mimic the salute, clumsy but honest. His father nodded. Then, one by one, the others in the diner rose. A woman in a National Guard shirt with a name badge. A middle-aged couple with wedding rings and veteran service pins. Each stood tall, spines straight, eyes steady. They didn't rise out of duty. They rose because their conscience had been stirred. The change wasn't loud, but it began right then. From that day on, the Blue Ridge Diner was renamed Honor Grounds Cafe. The name was proposed by the very veterans who now made it their regular gathering spot. There was no flashy sign, just a simple wooden plank painted navy blue with handwritten white letters, mounted beside the window where Elena still sat every morning. The table where the three bullies had once sat remained empty, not because it was banned, but because no one wanted to sit where cowardice once lived. Now, every guest who walks through the door sees a small inscription carved into the brick wall. All gave some gave all, but no one stands alone. Avlon and Elena, the woman once knocked down in silence, now sits upright, bathed in quiet reverence. Since that afternoon, the Blue Ridge Diner was no longer just a roadside cafe. It became a place, not just to sip coffee or grab a meal, but to preserve something deeper: respect, tradition, and the memories of those who once bore the flag on their shoulders and the oath of honor in their hearts. Elena Brooks still came every day, just as before. Same time, same table, where the light from the window spilled across her faded flannel shirt. But there was one key difference. Her Marine Corps pin was now worn proudly on the outside, gleaming amidst old coffee stains and the wrinkles of time. Behind her wheelchair fluttered a small American flag, its edges frayed but standing proud, always swaying gently as she rolled down the diner's hallway. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. sharp, the familiar military SUV returned. Sergeant Daniels, Captain Rodriguez, and Corporal Allen, the young soldier who once crawled from rubble because Elena pulled him free, entered the diner like it was home. No ceremony, no speeches, just hot coffee, meaningful silence, and stories from the past told more through glances than words. Then one day, the door opened again. A young man, thin and nervous, stepped inside in a crisp new uniform. Still uncertain of where he belonged, he clutched his cap tightly, scanning the room for a signal, something to tell him he wasn't alone. Elena saw him instantly. She didn't hesitate. She rolled forward and stopped right in front of him. "First deployment?" she asked, her voice soft as breath. He nodded. "Tomorrow morning, ma'am." "Sit down," she said, motioning to the empty chair across from her. "The coffee's not great, but the company? Unmatched. M." And just like that, a tradition continued. Not through ritual, but through small, meaningful gestures. Through a shared seat, a quiet nod, and the presence of those who understood. When you wear the uniform, You never stand alone. As the sun set over the Montana sky, golden light filtered through the windows of Honor Grounds Cafe, washing over the framed photos on the walls, faces in uniform, frozen in moments between life and sacrifice. In the stillness of that space, Elena Brooks sat in her familiar corner. Her eyes squinted slightly from the sunlight, but her quiet smile reached her soul. Across from her, Corporal Allen recalled a story from Kandahar, and for one rare moment, Elena didn't wince at the memory. She laughed. Genuinely, there were no speeches, no dramatic tributes, just the power of being remembered properly and by the right people. In another corner, a veteran who had hidden his service pin for over 40 years now wears it again with pride. A young female recruit, once unsure where she belonged, now had a place to return to every Sunday. And the place that once bore the stain of cowardice now stood as a symbol of quiet courage. The greatest lesson here isn't found in the uniform or the medals. It's this: respect doesn't come from what you see, but from what you're willing to acknowledge, even in silence. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's simply choosing to stand up or choosing not to look away. Elena's story isn't just about a veteran who was wronged. It's about a community that once looked the other way and chose to make it right. A diner that was once a stop along the road, it is now a place to stand tall. If you believe that no soldier deserves to be forgotten, if you believe that respect should live in even the smallest of actions, leave a comment below. I stand with those who served. And if this story moved you, subscribe to this channel for more untold stories of silent sacrifice, unwavering courage, and quiet dignity. Because sometimes, one small story is all it takes to make an entire town rise.